You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network. We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at lanterns.buzz for great radio. Get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Incoming transmission.
To the HoloNet podcast on the Lanterns Media Network. The new conservative resistance begins right here, right now.
Allied reinforcements have arrived from the west.
You're listening to the HoloNet on Lanterns Media Network. The millennial conservative resistance begins here.
Oh yes, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the new millennial conservative resistance does indeed begin right here, right now, with you. You are listening to the HoloNet podcast on the Lanterns Media Network and KLRNradio.com. That is KLRNradio.com. Make sure to check them out. Folks have been kind enough to syndicate the HoloNet podcast, and we are very grateful for those people in Oklahoma, where the wind comes sweeping down the plains, for deciding to pick up the ball and run with it and carry the HoloNet to a new audience. To an audience that has never before beheld the madness, the insanity that takes place here where we hold the line against the night in the Sonoran deserts of Arizona. And when I say the insanity, I mean, holy jumpin' Jesus, I can't believe this story actually made international headlines. Ugh. Alright, not far from where I now sit at the Wildlife World Zoo and Aquarium in Litchfield Park, Arizona. One of the dumbest things I have ever myself seen in a news story occurred. So we're going to go to that picture-in-picture right now. Sky News reporting. Sky News in the UK. Woman attacked by Jaguar while trying to take selfie at Arizona Zoo. I watched this video myself. It is very disturbing, and I go to launch my... last night I said to myself, because I saw the story last night when it broke, and I said, you know, I bet $20 and my left testicle that is going to trend. And it didn't trend last night. I was very surprised. It didn't trend. So I sit down. I've been under my house all day, literally, fixing a plumbing issue. So I shower off, I get ready to do my show, I'm doing my pre-show, looking at all the links and the news of the day, what's trending, and oh, God, it's trending. That means I have to touch it. It's so just mind-numbingly stupid. So we're going to go to azcentral.com, Arizona's family. Nathan J. Fish, ironic that he's covering an aquarium, and Mike Cruz from the Arizona Republic. A jaguar attacked a woman who reportedly crossed over a barrier while trying to take a photo Saturday at a West Valley Wildlife Park, according to fire officials. Rural Metro fire crews, brave men and women of rural Metro, hashtag not a sponsor, but I like them anyway because they're my fire department, responded to a report of a lady attacked by a jaguar about 6:40 p.m. at the Wildlife World Zoo Aquarium and Safari Park near Northern Avenue and Loop 303 in Litchfield Park, said Sean Gilliland, a spokesman for Rural Metro Fire. Crews found a woman at the zoo with lacerations on her arm. By the way, I'm not going to post the uncensored photos. It's brutal. She is slashed all the way down to the subcutaneous fat on her arm, which is just rough to look at. That's pretty brutal to see. Anyway, so she had lacerations to her arm. She's taken to a hospital, Gilliland said. The incident is being fully investigated by the zoo. Wildlife World Zoo statement said the visitor sustained life-threatening injuries to their hand from one of our female jaguars. At the request of the family, paramedics were called. At no time was the animal out of its enclosure. They started by saying, "We regret to inform you this evening before closing there was an incident reported involving a guest who crossed over the barrier to get a photo," according to eyewitnesses. Now, the zoo is USDA licensed private facility accredited to the Zoological Association, Alliance of Marine Mammals, Parks and Aquariums. 600 species and 6,000 animals on display, the website stated. So, story's still developing, but I couldn't believe it. Okay, so AZ Central, Fox 10, right? These are my locals. I saw it on BBC. That's up on your screen right now. Wildlife World Zoo, Jaguar attacks selfie taker. Wildlife World Zoo director Mickey Olson said there, quote, was no way to fix people crossing barriers. They're there for good reason. Yeah, maybe like, I don't know, a 6-foot-long, 120-pound jet black jaguar with, like, razor-sharp claws and teeth. Maybe that's your compelling reason not to cross the fence to take a selfie. We're seeing Darwinism in real time. I mean, I had zero intention of touching this story for this week's show, but the fact that it's trending globally made it where I have to. Oh, it's so dumb. And as I said, also covered by Sky News and, of course, trending on Twitter. Here it is, Twitter moment 17 hours ago. Oh, God. Wildlife World Zoo later tweeted out, "We promise you nothing will happen to our jaguar. She's a wild animal, and there were proper barriers in place to keep our guests safe. Not a wild animal's fault when barriers are crossed. Still sending prayers to her and her family." So, Wildlife World Zoo reporting nothing bad is going to happen to their jaguars. That's actually, I believe, is that a stock photo or is that the actual? I think that's the actual jaguar right there. Look at the claws! My God, look at the... Go for the zoom in. Look at the claws! How... You know, I'm glad the woman's life was not in danger. I saw the unedited video that was immediately posted to Reddit, by the way, by one of her friends. Which, can we stop and talk about that? If I'm bleeding, writhing in agony on the ground because I did something stupid, maybe instead of putting it on Reddit, help me. I'm just putting that out there. Just... Because that's kind of our culture today, is... I'm about to go viral. Let's get this on YouTube. Geez. So I saw the unedited, and it's rough. It's hard to look at. You see here, Sky News went ahead and blurred it out. I'm gonna... Oh, no, don't do it. Okay. Yeah, they blurred it out for Twitter, because that's a rough cut to look at. It looks like it's about 2 to 3 inches long, probably longer on her forearm, and it's cut all the way down to the fat. I mean, whew. That was a rough cut. Matt Walsh tweets, "Why can't you just take a picture of the jaguar? Why do you need your face in it? Nobody knows how to take a picture anymore. That's sticking their face into the frame." That's fair. That is fair. Oh, gosh. Newsweek's got it. Woman jumps into jaguar cage just to get a photo of it. Jaguar attacks woman. Woman surprised Pikachu. Yes! Next meme. All right. Irresponsible woman hops barrier into jaguar enclosure because she prioritized her selfie over the safety of the animal. Right and accurate headline. This is going to make people think the animal's to blame when it's clearly the woman's fault. Woman, oh my God, can I jump over and take a selfie? No. Let's see. Professor Black Truth tweets, so a grown woman deliberately hops the fence at a Jaguar pen just to take her selfie, yet white media is not attacking her or anyone who was with her. No, dude, white media is definitely attacking her. She's a moron. Okay? I hope she's alright. Thoughts and prayers with the family. Use a dumb one. And, of course, everybody saying Harambe. The Jaguar took a cracking selfie, though. There we go. All right. I don't know how much deeper into the Twitter hole I'm going to get into this. But, yeah, I think Twitter's got it right here. Twitter is coming out full force against the woman who took the picture, entered the enclosure, and was subsequently injured. Which, I'm sorry, play dumb games, win dumb prizes. My thoughts are with the Jaguar at this time, says Bay Grills. I'll wager the lady who was mauled after jumping into the Jaguar exhibit to get a selfie was wishing she was at home throwing cheese at her cat right now. Slow clap. All right, on to... can I throw 3 more minutes at this and nobody will notice? All right, I'll do like one more scroll. Okay. Let's see here. Another great... CNN! There we go, picture of the Jaguar. She went over the barrier. They better not mess with the Jaguar. Not its fault. Matthew A. Cherry. I agree. I love how people... this is how racial our world has become. Everybody's injecting color into this. Like, apparently this is white person stupidity right here. Here we go. Footage of the Jaguar totally unbothered after legally standing his ground. Arizona does, in fact, have stand your ground laws, and I do feel that the Jaguar was acting in defense of itself, so I do think the Arizona stand your ground law would apply here. The Jaguar did not have an obligation to retreat. A woman climbs over a barricade at the zoo, gets mauled by a Jaguar. Guess she never listened to Cat Williams. I would agree. Cat Williams did warn us about this kind of thing before. Woman suffered serious injuries to her arms. ABC News. Woman attacked by Jaguar. Thoughts and prayers go out to the Jaguar. Really scary what just happened to him. Oh, come on. Jaguars do not acknowledge white privilege. Should have kept her ass behind the barrier. Come on, guys. You're killing my faith in humanity. You know, one step at a time. Okay, this is good, Jen. Your headline is misleading. Suggests Jaguar instinctively protected its territory against human who disregarded multiple safety barriers in vain attempt to capture narcissistic selfie with wild animal. One headline writer to another, factually accurate but too wordy. You gotta tighten it up a little bit. Dumbass jumps fence, gets mauled. That works out well. So we're gonna jump off of that topic and we are gonna cruise across the pond. We gotta cruise across the pond. Oh, no, we don't. Actually, never mind. Well, it's still across the pond, but it's into Venezuela. Venezuela. Yes, with President Trump in Venezuela. Alrighty, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go to a story here coming to us from Reuters. This is in Russia, where thousands are protesting against new internet restrictions. Going to that story right now. Let's go up to here. All right. Loading. Screen is still loading. Don't know why it's loading. Rawhide. Moscow. Thousands of people took to the streets of Moscow and 2 other cities on Sunday to rally against tighter internet restrictions in some of the biggest protests in the Russian capital in years. Wait a second. I think we have to get something on here real quick. Hang on just a sec. Okay, I'll continue to read through it. Lawmakers last month backed tighter internet controls contained in legislation they say is necessary to prevent foreign meddling in Russia's affairs. An apparent inversion of what we're worried about here in the United States. They're worried about foreign meddling. Some recent media likened it to an online Iron Curtain. Maybe something like what they have in China. People gathered and cordoned off Prospect Sakharova Street in Moscow, made speeches on stage, and chanted slogans such as "Hands off the internet," No to isolation. Stop breaking the Russian internet. You know, I really do think there is some hope yet in Russia for the Russian people. I mean, this is all good, and I think it's all going to end well. And I think, you know, Putin is going to just accede to his people's wishes. I think that's going to happen. Oh, wait. Oh, no. Are you serious? No. Oh, crap. The rally gathered around 15,300 people. Moscow police estimates 6,500, downplaying it. Opposition activists said on Twitter the police had detained 15 people, confiscating their banners and balloons. Police have not announced any detentions. A handful of activists in St. Petersburg took to the streets without authorities' consent. Oh, man. Russia has introduced tougher internet laws in recent years, requiring search engines to delete search results, messaging services to share encryption keys with security service, and social networks to store Russian users' personal data on servers within the country. Ooh. Sorry, I had to grab the Soviet music for that one. So, Russia, not the Soviet Union. Russia is cracking down on the internet in a manner very similar to what already exists in China. You know, the Great Firewall of China. Now they're talking about the online Iron Curtain to stifle dissent. And folks, more of it is coming. Combine this with Article 13 in the EU, and now new calls here in the United States to introduce regulation to social media and other online services. And funny enough, conservatives are spearheading this in many ways. And this has been mentioned on Louder with Crowder. This has been mentioned on Glenn Beck's program. This has been tossed about in the conservative blogosphere and news feed for weeks now. What type of actions do we need to take as a nation to safeguard freedom of speech online? And there are a lot of different answers that are being tossed around. The scariest of them is that more federal regulation is required in order to make this work. And I'm going to stand up right now and tell you, federal regulation is not the answer to this problem. That's how you wind up with what's going on in China right now. That's how you wind up with Article 13. That's how you wind up with the online Iron Curtain in Russia and the Great Firewall of China. We do not need that here in the United States. What we need is a free market solution and a judicial solution. There is judicial remedy that exists to this, and it was touched upon earlier in this week by a couple of different outlets. I know Crowder, if you notice I'm drinking from my Louder with Crowder Mug Club mug, because we definitely have to unite behind the biggest players right now online in defense of conservatives' freedom of speech and expression on social media platforms. But the place to defend this is in the courts. The place to bring this is in the courts. President Trump's administration has done a marvelous job of strengthening the court system and the judicial system while no one has been looking. The right hand has been moving while everybody's distracted by the left. So the place to do battle with these forces is in our courts. Why? Because the distinction that social networks live in right now is that while they are a de facto publisher because they're exercising editorial discretion, they are treated as a platform, which frees them from the normal legal liabilities and legal exposures of a publisher. Any publisher can be sued for libel or slander or defamation of character or a milieu of other claims based on the fact that they have editorial control over what they published. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter claim that they do not exercise editorial control. However, when we see deboosting of pages like Louder with Crowder, like Mark Levin, like PragerU, like The Blaze, like CRTV, any other major conservative outlet getting deboosted, downplayed, and algorithmically stunted from being able to get the word out, this is an exercise of editorial control. So what has to be done now is court cases must be mounted. Class action lawsuits must be mounted by all conservative outlets that are impacted by these restrictions, and that is how we win. We win this thing in the courts. We will not win this thing in the halls of Congress. We will not win this through legislation, and we sure as hell will not win this through an executive order, as many have suggested. President Trump signing an executive order guaranteeing the online Bill of Rights. I covered this on last week's show. I didn't get a chance to go into it deeply, but that is the absolute last thing we want. This must be handled in the courts. It goes to a Supreme Court case, and then it is the rule of the land. It is the law of the land, because it already is. The law just has not been properly applied. The law states that you are either a publisher or you are a platform. If you are a platform, you are neutral to everything under the law. So unless there's a law against it, you do not intervene. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all of the major social media platforms have abandoned the principle of being a platform and embraced that of being a publisher. And if they want to be a publisher, fine. Let them be a publisher. But let them deal with the legal ramifications of being responsible for the content they put out. And then what you do is you turn around and you build out a free platform. You build out a platform like MeWe, like BitChute, like Minds, like Gab.ai. And people will see the difference. They'll see, okay, I don't want my kids on this, but it's not censored. As long as it doesn't break the law, it is allowed. On MeWe, BitChute, Gab.ai, and Minds. By the way, you can find the HoloNet on all of these platforms. All of them. Along with multiple other great content creators and contributors. So, let me take a drink. Got a tickle in my throat from breathing dust all morning. I was under my house doing plumbing. So that is the challenge we have in front of us right now. Go ahead and go back to full screen because not even looking at this right now. We must, as a conservative movement, not only have the discernment to choose which battles to fight, but we have to have the understanding to know where and when to fight them. Fighting this in the halls of Congress will accomplish nothing. In fact, it will probably backfire quite badly on us. And having an executive order slap a Band-Aid on this that can be ripped off by the subsequent administration or reversed on us is not the way to go. We have to win this in the courts, and we have to support the Trump administration's movements to rehabilitate the judiciary system in this country. The judicial system, the Justice Department, has to be filled. All of the vacancies must be filled. This is where we have a fight in the legislature that we have to address. This is where we have to support conservatives and we have to support Republicans. And yes, wrong one, we have to support President Trump because he is successfully gaining appointments in the judicial and very slowly walking back the damage that was done under Presidents Barack Hussein Obama and yes, even under President George W. Bush. So, on that happy note, did want to point out something cool. This is something pretty wild. Okay, we're going to go to my Twitter, picture-in-picture. Look at it! Just look at it! Quarter Black Garrett, producer, Louder with Crowder, tweeted out, "When is PewDiePie coming on Louder with Crowder?" If you know anything about me, if you followed this show for a while, I am supporters of both these creators, and like many, I would love to see the meeting of the minds between PewDiePie and Louder with Crowder. I think it needs to happen, and apparently producer Quarter Black Garrett agrees with me. He says, "When is PewDiePie coming on Louder with Crowder?" To which I replied, "Not sure about PewDiePie, but maybe Gloria Berger of Pew News. After all, it's the most trusted news source on the internet. So, Brofist. And what would my wondering eyes but appear? That is a like from Quarter Black Garrett. Getting a like from Quarter Black Garrett on your Twitter. It just don't get much sweeter than that. It don't get much sweeter than getting a like from Quarter Black Garrett. On that note, we'll take a quick break, go to commercial. When we come back, the latest from Venezuela. You're listening to the Holonet Podcast on the Lanterns Media Network and KLRNradio.com.
You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network. We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at lanterns.buzz for great radio. Get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Income.
Allied reinforcements have arrived from the west.
You're listening to the Holonet on Lanterns Media Network. The millennial conservative resistance begins here.
Oh, yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the new millennial conservative resistance does indeed begin right here, right now, with you. You're listening to the HoloNet podcast on the Lanterns Media Network and KLRNradio.com. Now we go to Venezuela. Not that I want to, because they don't, have anything to eat, and I'm kind of a fat guy. Nerves are fraying, according to Reuters, and tempers flare as Venezuela blackout. It'd be nice if I could read today. As Venezuela blackout hits its fourth day. Caracas! Furious Venezuelans lined up to buy water and fuel on Sunday as the country entered a fourth day of a nationwide blackout. Go to the picture-in-picture. That has already left scarce food rotting in shops, homes suffering for lack of water, and cell phones without reception. Whew. Dang. Authorities have managed to provide only patchy access to power since the outage began on Thursday in what President Nicolas Maduro called an act of U.S.-backed sabotage, but critics insisted is the result of incompetence and corruption. With no coherent official explanation of the problem or likely time frame for solving it, Venezuelans who have for years found ways to laugh about the privations of their economic crisis are now fretting that the blackout could extend indefinitely. So, I just want to, kind of remind you that Bernie Sanders and Social Democrats are very much still in love with the concept of socialism. Let's go to this clip from Bernie Sanders right here. Check this out.
Sometimes American journalists talk about how bad a country is because people are lining up for food. That's a good thing. In other countries, people don't line up for food. The rich get the food and the poor starve to death.
So that's what Bernie Sanders thinks of, food lines. Food lines tend to have an issue, though, Bernie, when all the food is rotting on the shelves. And the little food that there is, I might add. Country's worst ever power outage comes as Maduro faces a hyperinflationary economic collapse and an unprecedented political crisis. Opposition leader Juan Guaido in January invoked the Constitution to assume the presidency after declaring Maduro's 2018 re-election as a fraud. Angry residents of the Caracas neighborhood of Chacao on Sunday set up barricades along the main avenue and on side streets to protest the continued outage. The food we had in our refrigerators has spoiled. Businesses are closed. There's no communication, not even by cell phone. Ana Serrato, 49, a merchant standing in front of a pile of razor wire and debris. No country can bear 50 hours without electricity. We need help. We are in a humanitarian crisis. Lines extended for blocks at fuel stations as drivers queued up for gasoline and buses waited to be filled with diesel. Families stood under the sun to buy potable water, which is unavailable for most residents whose homes do not have power. State oil company PDVSA said on Sunday that fuel supplies were guaranteed, but many service stations remained shuttered for lack of power. Merchants unable to maintain refrigerators working began giving away cheese, vegetables, and meat to clients. I'm going to give these to street kids that I see, said Johnny Paredes, owner of a cafe, in reference to milk that she could not keep any longer. Other shops have simply had their supplies stolen. A small supermarket in a working-class area of western Caracas was looted on Saturday night after protesters barricaded an avenue and clashed with police, according to neighbors and the shop's owner, Manuel Caldera. They took food, they broke the display windows, they stole scales and point-of-sale terminals, said Caldera, 58, standing on the shop floor littered with glass. We weren't here when it happened. We got here and found all of this destroyed. This, ladies and gentlemen, is socialism. This is the type of collapse that you would see, and bear witness, this is the kind of collapse you would see here in the United States if we, too, were without power for an extended period of time. So this is probably a good point to remind everybody about how very fragile our electrical infrastructure is. Now, living where I do, I'm very close to Palo Verde Nuclear Power Plant, which is the largest nuclear power plant in the United States, I believe in the world. And the sensitivity of our electrical system, especially as we come into summer after such a crazy winter. I'm expecting this summer to be ridiculous, is something to be concerned about. So if you are not yet prepared, if you do not have backup generators or food storage or anything like that, this would be a really great place if I had a food storage sponsor. But these are things to seriously consider, because look at Venezuela at hour 50 of no power. They're riding in the streets, eating food before it goes bad. God only knows how many people have died already or are dying. Think of all the people on life support here in the United States. Think of all the people who depend on refrigeration systems for insulin and other medications that have to be kept cold. Think of how many people live in areas that become devastatingly hot, like Arizona. Think of the death toll. This is why we must prevent at all costs the level of big government control and state orchestration that you currently have in Venezuela and that you inevitably see in all socialist countries. This is what we are fighting for. Look at Venezuela and see the future under the likes of Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. This is what we're playing for, people. We are playing for the fate of our country. Not a game anymore. The fight right now is to preserve our nation, and the fight is here. The fight is on the internet. The fight is online, because here is where we are being silenced. First, they came for Alex Jones, but I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Then they came for Gavin McInnes, but I'm not a Proud Boy. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to fight. The Blaze and CRTV have joined forces as the Blaze Media. One of the fastest growing networks, Mojo 50, is bringing in new people all the time. A lot of them are my friends. KLRN Radio has opened their doors to the HoloNet, and we're grateful. Now is the time for forging alliances. Our ideologies may not match, but we can lock arms together in the defense of what is true, in the defense of the basic American freedoms, the basic concepts and truths that formed our country and forged it. That all men are created equal and are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And property, I would say. Life, liberty, and property was what the founder said originally. If you can join arms with someone, regardless of the petty differences that lie between us, if libertarian can join with conservative, then this is something that we can tackle. We can stand this ground and hold it. A couple of weeks ago, I think it was like a month ago, I did Defenders of American Exceptionalism with Stephen Airy. By the way, if you haven't checked them out, Dylan Lyles is back. Make sure you tune in and you check out Dylan Lyles, his triumphant return to the Defenders of American Exceptionalism. Steve and I had a great conversation about how some liberals and some libertarians and some conservatives are saying we don't need each other anymore. And that is an incredibly dangerous sentiment. The long-standing alliance of libertarian and conservative must endure. Because if you look across the aisle right now, the liberals and the progressives are shattering. The socialists are dividing the left. They know it, and they're scared. So who are they going to line up behind? Are they going to line up behind the moderate Democrats? Are they going to line up behind the old school Democrats like Joe Biden? Or are they going to line up behind the likes of Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, as it definitely appears? Are they going to line up behind the likes of Rashida Tlaib? Or Ilhan Omar? Is that the Democratic Party we're going to face in 2020 and in 2024? So while they're shattering, we need to draw closer together. We need to bring in the libertarians, the conservatives, the social conservatives, the fiscal conservatives, the establishment Republicans, God help us. They need to get out of the way. And they need to broaden the coalition on the right. Bring in more moderates. As long as we can agree on the core values and core tenets of what it is to be American. If we can agree on that, and we can agree that we need to make America great again, then everything else is just trimmings. Everything else can be debated later. When, how, and why we get there. Now is not the time to test for ideological purity, folks. Now is the time to ask the big questions. Are you pro-life or are you pro-choice? If you're pro-choice, to what extent? You know, are you pro-life to the point where, you know, except for life of the mother and incest and rape? We need to have these discussions. We need to get that big think going. We need to wrap our minds around the true questions of our time and put to bed the petty squabbles and small differences. Which is why I'm putting out the call to every other conservative creator, every other libertarian creator on Facebook, YouTube, TuneIn, iTunes, iHeartRadio, BitChute, Minds, Gab.ai, all of us, to line up behind Louder with Crowder right now and stand with Crowder in their continuing battle against Facebook and YouTube censorship, because you have to rally to the biggest banner, and right now they are the number one on YouTube. They are the number one conservative channel on YouTube. So the HoloNet we are throwing our support behind Louder with Crowder. We are also throwing our support behind Mojo 50 and KLRN Radio. And we will stand with anyone who shares the values that founded our nation, who supports and defends the Constitution and the American way of life. We're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about President Donald Trump's $8.6 billion with a B dollar budget and the response from the left. You're listening to the HoloNet Podcast on the Lanterns Media Network and KLRN Radio. We'll be right back.
I see people coming together not for divisiveness of party or for dichotomy of thought, but for unity in principle. And the principles that founded our nation. That all men are created equal and are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Today, ladies and gentlemen, those principles are under the sternest attack that we have seen in many generations. It has become a crime in this nation nearly to express a difference in opinion from what is held by your party to be doctrine. from what is purported by the media to be truth. We have an opportunity to reach out to our fellow Americans regardless of their creed and regardless of their political inclinations, and unite as Americans. Not as Republicans or as Democrats, as liberals or conservatives, but to unite around the principles that have guided this nation so well. I've covered a lot of stories, but the story that remains untold is the story of America in the 21st century. When we choose to turn back the tide against progressive socialism, when we choose to embrace the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and the Bill of Rights, when we remember what it is to be Americans. And that principle will not die as long as there is one man, one woman, one child who looks defiantly into the night and says, I am free.
You're listening to the HoloNet podcast on the Lanterns Media Network. The new conservative resistance begins right here, right now.
Allied reinforcements have arrived from the west.
You're listening to the HoloNet on Lanterns Media Network. The millennial conservative resistance begins here.
Oh, yes indeed, ladies and gentlemen, boys, girls, children of all ages, the new millennial conservative resistance does indeed begin right here, right now with you. We are coming down to the wire, last 8 minutes of this week's HoloNet podcast for Sunday, the 10th of March in the year of our Lord 2019. I forgot to throw in the date, 'cause I'm a loser. Anyway, wanted to jump really quick to this story. Just saw it from the Washington Examiner. Apparently Bernie Sanders is now creeping up in the polls to Joe Biden, who is a potential runner for the Democratic nomination in 2020. This is an indication of what I was speaking to earlier, that we are in distinct danger of the Democratic Party reorganizing as what is essentially the Socialist Party of the United States. We are on the verge of seeing the Democratic Socialist Party take true form. It's by Zachary Halishak, March 10. Former Vice President Joe Biden and Senator Bernie Sanders have nearly even support in Iowa, the first state to have a say in 2020 Democratic primary, according to results of a new poll. CNN Des Moines Register Mediacom survey conducted March 3rd to March 6th shows those most likely to caucus favor Biden and Sanders as their first choice at 27 and 25% respectively, with Biden leading by 2 points. 2. The next candidates fall far behind in the single digits. Sorry, Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, Elizabeth Warren. It looks like Iowa's just not that into you. Anyway, Sanders officially entered the race in February, and the poll indicates he is closing the gap with Biden, who is yet to join the crowded field of candidates. The previous CNN Des Moines Register Mediacom poll conducted in December had Biden at 32% and Sanders at 19%. Following the two frontrunners, Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts and Kamala Harris of California took 9 and 7% respectively, while former Representative Beto, I couldn't beat Ted Cruz O'Rourke, pulled out 5%. With it appearing more likely that Biden will announce a run, the poll shows most likely Democratic caucus goers see his ideology as aligning most closely to their own. When asked, 70% of respondents said Biden's politics are, quote-unquote, just right. 14% said he was too conservative. 6% thought he was too liberal. Contrasting with Biden, 48% of respondents said Sanders' politics are just right. 44% too liberal, and 2% said too conservative. So, the battle is on. And the fight will be joined soon. I honestly do believe Biden would be a fool to not announce. Biden is going to announce soon, and we are going to see a very, very interesting breakdown in the Democratic primary this year. It's going to come out Biden-Sanders front-running, and I think very likely Kamala Harris on top. I don't think Elizabeth Warren has got it to go in the long term. I really don't think so. I think this will be the moment of choosing for American Democrats. Notice how Cory Booker, by the way, didn't even rank. That's kind of sad for Cory. Anyway, we are coming upon the moment of choosing for Democrats. Are you going to choose to be the party of socialism? Are you going to continue to be the party of anti-Trump, where you have no true platform of your own? Or are you going to attempt something new? And the next 6 months should be extremely interesting as we see the Democratic preparations for the elections truly get underway, and while we watch the Republican Party essentially circle the wagons. Because I'll tell you one thing, I really do not see a primary challenge for President Trump coming. That would be tantamount to political suicide at this point. So there we have it. Now taking a quick look, Fox News. Here we go. Fox News tells us Trump to request $8.6 billion in wall funding in tough budget request, setting up a congressional showdown. President Trump will formally seek a total of $8.6 billion in new border wall funding from Congress as part of the White House's upcoming budget proposal for the next fiscal year, 3 sources close to the budget process told Fox News. Although the aggressive request faces all but certain rejection in Congress amid a growing crisis at the southern border. Budget is also expected to seek money to establish the Space Force as a new branch of the military, and sharply curb spending on domestic safety net programs. According to sources, Trump will look to secure $5 billion from Congress plus $3.6 billion from the military construction budget for the year 2020. The request is coming on top of the $8.1 billion Trump already has access to, which includes the money he's trying to shift from military accounts after declaring a national emergency. So then we go to the inevitable response. Pelosi and Schumer threaten another government shutdown over President Trump's request for border wall funds. Quote, President Trump hurt millions of Americans. President Trump, we just talked about that. So Pelosi and Schumer, in a joint statement, said that Trump, quote, learned his lesson from the last partial government shutdown because additional efforts to secure the border wall funds will fail. Quote, President Trump hurt millions of Americans and caused widespread chaos when he widespread chaos? Widespread chaos. I had to go to work that week. Did you? Widespread chaos. Okay. The hyperbole is strong with this one. When he recklessly shut down the government to try to get his expensive and ineffective wall, which he promised would be paid for by Mexico. Factually accurate, but you do have to check into what the trade balance will do to that. Congress refused to fund his wall, and he was forced to admit defeat and then reopen the government. The same thing will repeat itself if he tries this again, the leaders continued. We hope he learned his lesson. I don't see this going anywhere good, and I think going into the 2020 election, Trump will die on this hill. I think he is absolutely willing to fight this one out this time. And I think this is going to be the defining moment for the 2020 election. President Trump declared his state of emergency. They're in the process of fighting that state of emergency, and now he is going to go toe-to-toe with Congress again to try to secure this budget. As I said, the Democratic Party is going to come to a time of choosing. And I think they're choosing to follow Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and her type over the hill and off the cliff. All right, folks. This has been the HoloNet Podcast on the Lanterns Media Network, KLRN News Radio. Thank you all. Good night. God bless you. And God bless the United States of America. From Phoenix.